So this is my first ride on the Triumph Trident 660. I'm quite excited about this. I do think the Triumphs are just finished really nicely, and even this, which is a budget bike, everything on it, you know, looks good enough. So here we go. I'm going to take this for a spin around the Peak District. It's definitely got that triple smoothness that I used to get on my 1050 speed triple. So yeah, let's see what this is like. So the very first thought, and this is literally as I've just ridden it out of the dealer, is just how light it is. You know, this is I guess it's their entry-level bike. You know, it's they've got the street triple, the 765, and then they've got what was the 1050 speed triple and is now the 1200, which both are incredible machines. But this is just a very simple, bare bones, fun naked bike. At least I hope it's fun. It does feel quite small under me. I'm a 6'1", but yeah, let's see how it fares out on the Peak District roads. So this bike just has the standard spec, so everything you can see on here is what it comes with. The dealer had added the protection plate on the fuel tank, and also some side sort of crash guards as well, just the plastic bungs. They use it as their loaner bike when people have brought their bikes in for a service, so I think it does see quite a lot of action. But nevertheless, it is a bike I am interested in, so I thought I would take it out for a spin. Now, I guess the first bike a bit like this that I'd ridden was the Royal Enfield Interceptor 650, which came as a real breath of fresh air. You know, it was really back to basics, but that didn't mean that it was old-fashioned. You know, it's modern technology, looking a little bit retro, 650cc twin. You know, you're not going to lose your license unless you're really pushing on, but just a really fun bike. But it did have its shortcomings. You know, the suspension was really budget, and for someone as heavy as me, that was quite noticeable. What I did like was just how light and how nimble it was, and this feels very similar, if not more. So the engine that's in this it's not a twin, it's a 660cc triple, which I think does bring that extra level of smoothness that you don't get with the twin. Now, whether that actually makes the difference when I'm out on the lanes, we shall see. For those of you who've seen some of my other videos around the Peak District, a lot of the roads are, you know, they're not particularly fast. You know, they're definitely 40 to 60 mile an hour roads, rather than, you know, really sort of full on. And I don't really get the most out of my CB 1000R. You know, it's a bike where I could probably just only use one or two of the gears and get around. So to have something that is a bit more suited to the sort of speeds on the roads that we have would be ideal, and that is why I'm riding this bike today, and why it's actually on my list of next bikes that I might get. So I've been riding the bike for about 10 minutes, and my first thoughts are, this is a hoot. This is just a really nice bike. You know, I've been coming out through the back roads of Chesterfield, away from the dealer, so, you know, not really somewhere to stretch its legs, but it's just so light, it's so easy to ride. The engine, when you're pottering around at 30 mile an hour speeds, isn't going to scare anyone, but as soon as you need to just twist the grip a bit to get a bit more speed to overtake, it is more than capable. You know, these days the 600s became 700s, became 800s and 900s, and everything just seems to be bigger, better, faster, more. And this little 660 triple is just a peach of an engine. I think the Triumph is shortly bringing out the new 660 Sport, so we'll be putting this engine in a sports tourer, and yeah, I guess that makes perfect sense as well, because it's just very capable. Now, the suspension on it is not the fanciest. There's nothing electronic about it. I don't even know if there's any adjustment, especially on the forks. And you can tell they're made to a budget, but then again, the forks on my CRF 300 are made to a budget, and that felt like being on a pogo stick. These are made to a budget, and it just feels very planted. I think the bike costs about the same as my CRF 300 Rally. I will need to check that. And though they are very different bikes, you know, you'd expect there might be some common attributes at that price point. And the suspension on this bike actually feels very, very solid. It does feel better than the handling does feel better than the Royal Enfield Interceptor, which I think is a little cheaper than this bike. But this is actually a really nice place to be. Can't wait to get it out on some little roads. And it just feels like it wants to go. It reminds me, a few years ago I was at the Isle of Man TT, and a friend of mine who had just passed his test came on what was then a new Yamaha MT-07, and coming off a GS and riding that, it just felt like, you know, it wasn't a fast bike, but it was very revvy, and actually if you wanted to ride it, it was incredibly engaging. This feels a bit like this, but this feels a bit like that, but with a bit more polish. This is a good thing. There we go. Overtaking, 4th gear, didn't even need to change down, and come round and pass it. This bike actually feels like you're going faster than you are. I looked down wondering if I was breaking the speed limit, and I was pretty much bang on 50. But it's just so easy to throw around. The handling is just so nimble and tight, and this is, you know, with everything as stock, that this is really fun. This is the most fun I've had on a bike for a while. On road, of course. So I've caught up with a bit of traffic coming up through here. This road is not the smoothest, so I'm always interested to see how suspension behaves on here. And actually, it's pretty good, you know, considering it's budget suspension. I mean, yeah, it's not damping out everything with one bounce. You know, you're not getting that sort of electronic, fully automatic, fully adaptive suspension that I get on my GS. But for what this bike costs, I think it's about a third the price of a GS, and it's certainly good enough. You know, more than good enough. Good enough sounds like it's just okay. This is actually really good for a budget suspension setup, for somebody as heavy as me on a bike that probably isn't designed for me. Turn it in to go around this bend. There's an odd camber coming around here. But yeah, that handles it really nicely. This is a real surprise. It's not often I get on a bike and everything just feels right, just right off the bat. And this does. It's a really, really good motorcycle, right? And I don't say that lightly. You know, I try and ride as many motorbikes as I can. You know, if something doesn't feel quite right, you don't always point it out straight away, because you know you have to get used to it before you know if it's a real problem. But this was a bike that I got off a 1250 GS, you know, very different machine. Got on this, and everything just works. Everything just feels really good, really well put together, and it is a surprise. You know, I might have expected this from the Street Triple maybe, or maybe some of the other bikes, but just to get on this, which has been made to a budget. You know, this is very much Triumph's entry model, and it's really good. I mean, really good. And this is from someone who's 6'1", who, you know, rides a 1250 GS and a CB 1000R. To get on a little 660 triple is quite a change, especially on a road bike. I know my 300 CRF Rally is a smaller bike, but yeah, this is great. The only downside is I'm going to have to take it back. But I can go the long way round. So I've been riding the Triumph Trident now for about 20 minutes, and the rain has started, so I almost didn't stop to do this little sort of talk through, but this bike is so good I felt like I had to. So I've thoroughly enjoyed it so far. It's just a really easy bike to ride. It's easy to ride slow, it's got plenty of go when you want to go fast. Everything just feels right. I just want to show you a couple of things on the bike. Back end, it's just got this little tail light. The indicators are actually on the tail side, which isn't the tiniest. That could probably do with changing. Coming around the side, it's got this low slung exhaust. You know, a lot of these parts just look really well made, really well machined. A few bits are a bit cheaper, like the brake pedal, but that probably doesn't really matter. There is a little guard on the exhaust down there. This bike does have the Triumph crash bungs. Coming around to the front, it's got that Nissan twin disc front brake. It's got Showa upside down suspension. It's got a very bright LED headlamp and these little LED indicators. Coming around the other side, it's very much the same. Now, quick look at the dash. As you can see it's quite easy to use. They've got these controls left and right, not too many buttons really. This one doesn't have heated grips, but I think for me that's something I'd look to get. Right then, this rain is getting heavier. I'm going to get extremely wet very quickly, so I think I'm going to get back on the bike. I am going to ride back via a dual carriageway so you can see what it's like on the motorway. But yeah, I'm having a hoot on this despite the weather in November in the UK. Right then, off we go. That's even in fifth from 40 miles an hour, and it just easily pulls away. You know, this isn't a bike that you have to rev the nuts off to get it to do something. As I work my way back to the dealer, I'm trying to think through a few things about this bike. So first of all, I'm trying to find a fault with it. Now, this, I don't mean that it's the best at everything, of course it isn't, but at this price point, I've not ridden anything that's this good. And I've ridden many bikes which are a lot more expensive than this, which are not, which I could easily find fault with. So the steering is very precise, it's quite fast as you'd expect on a bike with this sort of geometry. The engine is probably the biggest surprise for me. I thought it was either going to be like a very revvy Supersport 600, which you really had to do a lot to get it to play nicely, or it would feel a little bit underpowered, and it's neither. It really isn't. The riding position is really comfy. I did wonder if it would be too small for me, but it definitely isn't. I'm 6'1", and it's a comfortable place to be. I don't feel like my legs are tucked up. I would say it's even more comfortable than my CB1000R. The mirrors, the instruments, the controls, they all just work. Yeah, I am struggling to find a fault with this bike. Shall I be really picky? Alright, I'll be really picky. The rear brake lever could do with being very slightly bigger. The first time I went to use it, I had to reach around with my toe a little bit to find it. That is how hard it is to find something that I don't like about this bike. I suppose I don't know what the headlamp's like because I haven't ridden it at night. It's an LED, it looks decent size, looks bright enough. So I don't expect there'll be any problem, but I really am struggling to find anything that I don't like here. It's quite a narrow bike. You know, I'm used to bikes with quite big tanks where your knees are actually a long way apart when you're riding them, and this does feel quite narrow, you know, easy to grip when you are pushing on, but without that sort of more sort of crouched position you get with rear sets on sports bikes. You know, it doesn't feel like that at all. So Triumph are going to be bringing out their 660 adventure bike or adventure sports bike with this same engine, and I think that's going to be a cracker. I really do. It wasn't something that was really on my radar because I was kind of thinking in terms of the new 1200, if anything, as being the thing that maybe I'd replace my GS with. But I think what this comes out with as the sort of sports tourer is going to be really interesting, because the engine is just made for it. It's if you've ridden the Tenere A700, it's a better engine than that, I think. Sorry, Yamaha. So for this very last bit of my ride, I'm going to ride back on the Chesterfield bypass back to the dealership, which is Triumphworld in Chesterfield. I'm not expecting it to be a nice and peaceful ride back along there. I expect to be quite blustery, but you know, it's a naked bike, it's supposed to be blustery. I'm sure I'll get that feel of speed at 50 and 60 and 70 on this that I'd have to get to, well, license losing figures on my GS to get the same experience. Also doesn't seem to use very much fuel. I only put I think 5 or 6 litres in just now because the low fuel light was on, and that looks like it's half a tank. I should check how big it is, But yeah, that's another bonus if it will do 150, 200 miles on a tank. Right then, let's see what this will do on here, passing the Golf Lima Foxtrot sign. Well, it's definitely blowy, but this is in third, and that will easily get up there. It's fourth, fifth. Yeah, there's pretty much no wind protection on here. I'm sure you can get a stubby screen for it. But, you know what? In 6th gear at 60, it feels like it's hardly trying. So this is the roll on in 6th to overtake this car. It is a slight uphill, and let's see how that goes. And even that is pretty easy in 6th to get up and past. And at 70 miles an hour, which I'll try and hold, actually that doesn't feel too bad. Now, you wouldn't want to do it all day, but if you had to do a bit of dual carriageway, a bit of motorway to get somewhere, it'd be fine. I mean, I am feeling like it's blowing me around a little bit, but I think that's also because the bike is quite nimble and light, which unfortunately means that when you get the wind from the side, it really is going to pick it up. It's not the best weather today for a bike like this, and actually to ride to the dealership I went with my 1250 GS. But the fact that it can do this quite happily, and you know what, most motorbikes of this capacity can do this quite happily, but nevertheless I just wanted to see whether there was any vibrations, anything on the mirrors or anything else. But I think this 660 triple is so smooth that there's no vibrations anywhere. You know, I'm not feeling anything through my hands, not seeing any movement at all on the mirrors. So yeah, it's just a really good bike. So I'm just heading back to the dealer now. It's been a really fun test ride. If you've never ridden one of these Triumph Tridents, you so should. Doesn't matter what you normally ride. I think they're just a really good bike. If you have a Triumph dealer nearby, you know, maybe it's not even a bike you've looked at before, because, well, it's not you. You know, maybe you like adventure bikes or cruisers or tourers or something else. But at this price point, if you just enjoy motorcycling, I've not come across anything this much fun for this price. I really haven't. I would recommend it to anyone, you know, at least to try it, even if you don't buy one. Right then, difficult decision now. I have to go and give it back, and then there's going to be this conversation about whether I actually want one or not. And obviously I don't need a new bike, so probably not, but it has been so much fun. So I made it back to the dealer. The heavens did open, although we do now have a bit of blue sky up there, so that's all good. Yeah, I really enjoyed that, as you can probably tell. Can't stop smiling, and I couldn't stop saying how much I enjoyed it when I was out riding it. I mean, I think for that price, I think this one comes in at just over £7,000. So it's a fair bit more than the Royal Enfield Interceptor 650, but it's still a lot less than a lot of other bikes. I honestly didn't think that this would be something that maybe I'd swap my CB1000R for, but now I'm kind of tempted. So I'm going to have a chat to them about what it's actually going to cost me if I spec it up with a quick shifter and some heated grips and a few of the things that I think I'd like, especially for riding through the year here in the UK, and see what that looks like. It has also made me think that maybe I need to look at the competition. So I know the Aprilia Tuono 660 is a bike that's worth looking at, and I think there's a dealer near me, so I think I should go and try one of those before I take the plunge. But yeah, the Triumph Trident 660 really is an incredible bike. So if you think for £7,000, there's not a lot else you can get for that. You can get a Royal Enfield for less, but I think the suspension on the Royal Enfield, I would certainly need to upgrade it. For me, I think I can ride the Trident pretty much as it comes out of the dealership. It's just a really fun bike to ride. I think the last time I was this excited about riding a bike was, I think, on the FTR 1200 that I rode not last summer, the summer before. So yeah, it was a genuine surprise. I didn't actually come out today thinking that I was going to test ride this bike. I actually came to test ride something else, and after that they had one of these around the corner, so I thought I'd call in. So it's not been the best weather. It did rain quite a lot. I didn't get to do as much filming when I was out and about, so apologies if this is a bit brief. But if one of these does find its way into my garage, then I'm sure there'll be a lot more to come. So yeah, Triumph Trident 660. It's a cracking bike. If you have a dealer nearby, you should definitely look one up. I hope this has been interesting and useful. If it has, please like and subscribe, and I'll see you next time. Thanks for watching.